Restitution is the remedy for theft. This is the remedy. There's 22 statutes, but we'll go quickly through them. Restitution and punishment should be according to the crime. Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. That's God's law. What you did to them, that's what gets done to you. This is the underlying principle for all restitution. Assault and battery must be repaid in full. Health care, loss of wages, etc. He shall pay for the loss of his time and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Whatever it takes to make him thoroughly healed is what they pay.
That would be nice.
There's no limits. We have limits today. Disciplining a servant is okay. If death occurs, he shall be punished. That sounds harsh, but God's law is pretty harsh. This is a bond servant. One who is a servant due to a debt they can't pay, which is why it says he is his money. So the assumption I would have here is he's disciplining him because he's not working to pay off his debt like he should be. So God's a big, well, we can't in America, but God's a big fan of corporal punishment. Obviously, though, if death occurs, then he's going to be punished. You don't have the right to take his life, but you do have the right, if he owes you a debt and he's your servant, to do what's necessary to get him to pay that debt. But don't do this in America because America does not allow that. For one, no one's going to become your bondservant. If you are reckless and cause an injury, you owe full restitution. This is that one I referred to earlier. If you are reckless and cause no injury, you owe a fine. This is this controversial verse that people have heard, but if men strive and hurt a woman with child so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. That sounds like an abortion and it's just a fine. Is that what it is?
No.
And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe. Some definitions to help understand this. Mischief is asan, which means hurt or mischief. According to Brown Driver Briggs, it's evil, mischief, harm, or hurt. I wanted to throw a third one in there. The Complete Word Study Dictionary, it's a masculine noun meaning evil, mischief, harm, hurt, or damage. It signifies bodily harm or personal loss. Mischief today doesn't mean what it used to mean. Okay? In a legal dictionary, in the phrase malicious mischief, it imports a wanton or reckless injury to persons or property. So this is someone who was reckless and caused an injury. So let's read this again. When you cause an injury due to recklessness, you owe life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. When you are reckless but no injury is caused, you owe a fine. So if you change mischief to injury, which is what it should be, injury due to recklessness, the woman either had the injury or she didn't. But she was hit and you get a fine for it. But if it caused a damage to the child or the woman, you pay full restitution. If someone dies, you die. If there's a life for life, wound for wound, stripe for stripe, whatever happens to them happens to you. So that's what I meant by this statute. It's kind of misunderstood. Mischief, if we went by the law books, it makes sense. King James nailed it on that one. But we don't use mischief today that way. So it gets a little misconstrued. If an animal kills a person, the animal is to be put to death. That one's pretty clear. If an animal injures a servant, the owner pays the servant's master. The animal is killed. So if you're a servant, you don't have the right. You've lost your rights.
Right.
If one man's animal kills another man's animal, then the live animal is to be sold and the money equally divided between them. That just makes sense. No one's at fault there, so you split it. Theft, it's double if property is returned. So if I steal your car, get caught, if I can return the car, I have to pay you 2 cars. Felony theft is 5 times restored. But that's if you can't return it. Okay, but that's for an ox, and for a sheep would be a misdemeanor theft. It's 4 times restored. But that's if you can't return it. So you've lost the item. So I stole your car, but I can't return the exact item that I stole. I owe you 4 or 5 times the amount. Think about how this would fix theft in America. Yep. Can you imagine? We don't do that to criminals today. You steal a car, you owe 5 of them? I mean, come on. That would solve a lot of theft problems. things. The nighttime killing of a thief is permitted. There shall be no blood shed for him if you kill a thief. The daytime killing of a thief is forbidden. I'm going to answer that. Why? Oh, were you just reading that? Oh, okay. Because restitution is what theft is. The penalty for theft is restitution, not death. But what would the spirit of the law say? At night, you might feel threatened. You can't see. This is not like out here in downtown city with city lights everywhere. Yeah. This is out in where there's no lights. It's scary. You might feel threatened. The spirit of the law, if it is daytime and he has a gun, are you threatened?
Yes.
Yeah, and we kind of construe the law that way. You basically just have to say you felt threatened and you're okay. You're afraid for your life. That was the word I was looking for. And that's how the spirit of the law works. It's not just that it's nighttime. The context makes sense for them at nighttime. Here at nighttime, shoot, you can have full lights on and see as it's day in your house. And that really wouldn't qualify if you just shoot him just because he's in your house, but he's not armed or something. Maybe it'd go the other way. If you cannot pay the sum you owe, you will become their slave, and we're going to talk about that later. Damages due to acts of negligence shall be repaid. Examples of negligence in the scripture: not covering a pit, burning down a field, not putting a rail on your roof. All these basically mean, the spirit of the law, any act of negligence has the same punishment. You can be driving and eating. You're negligent if you cause a damage. Now in America, under the Roman civil law, if the cop sees you doing it, you might get a ticket. It's the difference between regulation and property rights. You didn't take away anybody's property right by eating or texting or doing whatever behind the wheel, but you broke a regulation. That's where we're at today in America. If borrowed property is stolen or damaged without the borrower's knowledge, an oath between the owner, borrower, and the Lord is to be made. The borrower shall not make restitution. So if there's borrowed property, then an oath is made saying, hey, I don't know anything about it. I didn't damage it. I didn't take it. I didn't steal it. It says no man seeing it, then he doesn't have restitution to be made. If borrowed property is stolen from him, he shall make full restitution. This is with knowledge. In other words, he should have taken greater precautions. If borrowed property is destroyed due to an act of God, the property is used as evidence and no restitution is to be made. So if an animal's torn in pieces or whatever it might be, then no restitution is to be made. It was an act of God. If borrowed property is damaged or destroyed in the absence of the owner, he shall make full restitution. So if the owner's not there, then you're the one responsible for it. But if the owner is there, if the borrowed property is damaged or destroyed in the presence of the owner, then the owner's the one that's completely responsible at that time. It's his property. He's transferring the property right to you for a time during the loan, and you're solely responsible. But if he's there, he's the highest holder of that property right. And finally, negligent homicide is punished by stoning. We kind of alluded to this earlier. If you knew that the ox was dangerous and you didn't do anything about it, you can be put to death even for negligence. And negligent homicide may be redeemed by a sum of money. That's something that we don't really think about today. But you're guilty, you can go to the other party and say, hey, you know what, I've got a lot of money. I can pay you $1 million if you let me off the hook. And that's okay for negligent homicide. Nothing in the scripture makes me think it's okay for murder, for criminal intent.